Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, in the interest of giving the Tories a proper wake-up call at the next election, I'd like to discuss a supercharged form of tactical voting based around a campaign called South Devon primary. It's a way of shifting unsuitable Tory MPs from what look like safe seats, and I'm going to explain how you can maximise your vote if you live in such a seat. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So there's a reason why the only major political party in Britain committed to first past the post is the Conservative Party. There are lots of parties splitting the Labour vote, and the system prevents any other party from realistically rising to prominence to challenge them as well. At the last general election, over 3/4 of all votes cast were for either the Conservatives or for Labour. This does not mean that over 3/4 of voters have either Labour or the Conservatives as their party of choice. Simply that most voters recognise that they face a choice for the government of one of these two parties. In most constituencies, the election is down to two candidates. There are a small number of genuine three-horse races, but not very many. It's a contest between two candidates, and in many of those seats, between the Conservative and someone else. If you vote for any other candidate, and there may well be many, then you are as good as spoiling your ballot. But when we've experienced a long period of Conservative rule, you generally find a lot of non-partisan people desperately wanting to change the government. This particular Conservative government have been especially cruel and destructive, so there are millions who want to change. But are you able to use your vote to affect that change? For some people, yes, for others, no. But there are a lot of people who can use their vote for change, but don't know that or don't know how to do that. So when deciding how to leverage your vote specifically to send the Tories packing, you'd first have to consider the constituency where you're registered. If the Conservative candidate is not competitive there, then there is no possibility of using your vote to kick the Tories out because they're already out of your constituency. Doesn't mean you don't have the option to vote tactically. You may still have a preference between the two non-Tory candidates, and it may be that your own preferred candidate or party may have no chance of success. In this case, it's up to you. You could use your vote to have an impact by voting for what you might judge as maybe the lesser of two evils. That's up to you. But if the Conservative candidate has a realistic chance of winning in your constituency, as they do in most, then you can absolutely use your vote to make a difference. Even if you think you can't. Here's how. The most straightforward way is to vote tactically. The Conservative candidate will be up against someone else. They are most likely to be from Labour or the Lib Dems or the SNP. Now, people, of course, can use their vote as they wish. You don't have to vote for any candidate. Just go in, draw a grumpy face on your ballot paper and post it. Spoil your ballot, but you've at least registered as voting. This is fine. This video is not telling you how to vote. But if you want to use your vote to kick as many Tories out as possible, then you can vote tactically for the candidate best placed to beat the Tory candidate. And if you don't know who that is, do be careful here. I'll give you two tips. First, stopthetories.vote will point you to reliable advice websites when the election campaign begins. Now, do beware. Don't just Google a tactical voting website. The Tories will be funding misinformation online, as they did last time, and they're really going to go for it this time because they're in a losing position. They will have their own versions designed to steer tactical voters the wrong way. Stopthetories.vote is a reliable group, and they will tell, when the time comes, they will tell you which tactical voting advice is reliable. But another good way, check the betting odds. When you're ready to cast your vote, when you're ready to cast your ballot, it could be polling day itself, or it might be earlier if you're using postal voting. Check out the betting odds for your constituency and vote for the non-Tory candidate with the shortest odds. I stress again, do not use an online search for tactical voting advice because the Tories will be funding fake websites laying traps. But that's the basic level of tactical voting, the vanilla tactical voting. It works well in the target seats of anti-Tory parties. However, let's say you live in a Tory constituency and it seems really safe. Let's say it's a constituency which isn't going to be a major target for one of the opposing parties, right? This is where the primary comes in. So let's take a look at South Devon, where there's a supercharged tactical voting campaign. The current Conservative MP is Gary Streeter. Gary Streeter has been the MP ever since that seat was first formed in 1997. In 2019, Gary Streeter won the seat with 62.4% of the vote. Mr. Streeter looks very safe, doesn't he? But he's not, if we can marshal anti-Tory votes against him. But let's consider the problems of doing so, of persuading people to do that. Because some people will naturally look at that result and say, well, even if we get all the anti-Tory votes behind one candidate, that's not enough, is it? He's got over 60% of the vote, Phil. We can't beat that with everyone else voting for one. He won over half the available votes. That's maths, you see. But this is not true for two reasons. The first is that Streeter only won 62.4% of the votes cast, not the available votes. He won 45.9% of the available votes. That is because there were nearly 20,000 registered voters in South Devon who did not vote last time because they didn't feel it was worth supporting any candidate. But 46% still quite high though, isn't it? We'd have to not only get all the other voters to back a single candidate, but get the vast majority of non-voters to go out and do the same. That's a tough ask, isn't it? Yes, but there's something else as well. Because the second point to consider is that 2019 was a very good year for the Tories. Labour were toxic to many voters and the Conservatives did very well across the country, harvesting over 42% of the votes cast nationwide. The next general election is not going to be a good year for the Conservatives. They're currently polling on about 25% of the vote. Also, let's look at South Devon historically. There are some seats, they're known as bellwether seats. They look like safe Tory seats if you looked at them now, based on the last election results. You know, when the Tories are doing well nationally, they look like safe Tory seats. But they do tend to flip Labour when Labour are in the ascendancy. Now, this is not one of those seats. This seat was won by Gary Streeter, even when Labour were winning general elections in 1997, 2001 and 2005. But by how much? In 1997, the last time Labour came to power, Streeter won 42.9% of the votes cast, but that was 32.7% of the total available vote. Well, that's less than a third. And this was in a year when the Conservatives won 31% of the votes cast nationally. Well, if the Conservatives look like getting a smaller share of the vote next year nationally, then Streeter's potential sinks further. Basically, the seat is very winnable. But it needs voters to realise this and to realise how they can use their vote to unite behind a common candidate. This sounds like a job for an energetic local campaign. And it exists in the form of the South Devon primary. So how does it work? Well, first of all, raising awareness of the vulnerability of the Tory candidate. Many people won't vote or won't vote tactically because they don't think it will make a difference. Voter apathy is like the Tories' best friend. Consider someone who would prefer to vote for, say, the Green Party, as an example. They are most aligned to the Green Party. Now, they might be prepared to vote for a different candidate, like a Labour candidate, if they thought it has a realistic shot at displacing that Tory MP. But if they think to themselves, well, it was not going to make any difference anyway, I'm just going to end up voting for a party I'm not entirely aligned with and abandoning my party of choice, I'm not going to do that. So little exercises like this, which show that there's a lot of local support for uniting behind a common anti-Tory candidate, are useful. It lets people know, actually, it's not just you. There's lots of people in this area who want to unite behind that common candidate. And the group are also going to be running primaries for the potential challengers. 3 anti-Tory candidates will take place in these primaries. They'll have questions put to them in public meetings around the constituency where they get the opportunity to explain why they are the best placed candidate to challenge Gary Streeter's nearly 3 decades long run of taking votes for granted in a safe Tory seat. In each session, people will cast their votes for their preferred candidate. When all of the votes are tallied from across all of the public meetings, a people's champion will be declared and the campaign will then promote that people's champion as the tactical voting sink. If the campaign can build momentum to the point where local voters are aware of it, aware of its aims, and feel included, It encourages people who are prepared to vote tactically that actually they can make the difference. Like I say, it's a sort of supercharged tactical voting campaign. Vanilla tactical voting takes the form of telling people how it works, why it's needed in a first-past-the-post system. It works in target seats because, you know, enough people will naturally decide to vote tactically if you make them aware of the concept, and in a target seat will make the difference. But this is a system for amplifying that tactical vote in a way that's necessary in a non-target or safe seat. Because if people can be brought together behind a single candidate, there are very few genuinely safe seats. Very few indeed, especially for the Tories in a year when the public have had enough for them. There's also another advantage as well. If non-partisan tactical voting campaigns can show the impact of their work, if they can say, we helped you win this seat, it means that they can make a strong argument to the next Labour government that they need to swing behind proportional representation. Because as soon as those tactical voting efforts are withdrawn, as they inevitably will be once Labour are the incumbents, apart from anything else, it'll have less appeal to the public. They're once again going to be vulnerable to split voting and the Tories winning 100% of the power with a minority of the vote, and they will use that 100% of the power to undo all the good work Labour do in government in very short order. They've already done that with the last Labour government's work. So there we are. I've posted a link to the websites mentioned in the description below. You may find there's a primary in your area as well. It's not just South Devon. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.